Rome had always been a city built on ambition and blood. From its mythical foundation by Romulus to the mighty strides of its legions across Europe, it had been fed by the energy of conquest. Yet no man had ever symbolized its relentless hunger quite like Gaius Julius Caesar. Born in 100 BCE into the prestigious Julian gens, Caesar carried divine blood in his veins, or so he claimed, a descendant of Venus through Aeneas, son of Troy. But his early years were marked not by luxury but by turbulence. His uncle was Gaius Marius, a champion of the populares, whose rivalry with the conservative general Lucius Cornelius Sulla plunged Rome into chaos. When Sulla seized power and declared Caesar an enemy for refusing to divorce his politically inconvenient wife, Cornelia, the young man fled into hiding. The Republic had drawn its first sword against him, and it would not be the last. When Sulla died, Caesar returned. Scarred but undeterred, he made his name in Asia Minor, capturing enemy strongholds and winning the coveted civic crown for bravery. During a brief kidnapping by pirates, he famously told his captors they would regret touching him. After paying his ransom, he hunted them down and had them crucified, a grim prophecy fulfilled. Back in Rome, Caesar climbed the cursus honorum, quaestor, aedile, praetor, each step dripping with calculated generosity and debt. He gave Rome games, feasts, and grain, all financed by loans that would have sunk lesser men. But Caesar understood something vital. Glory repaid debt. And no glory shone brighter than military conquest. In 58 BCE, Caesar was given command in Gaul, a region that would make him immortal. What followed was a 9-year campaign of brutal brilliance. Gaul was a fragmented world of tribes, but Caesar saw beyond their divisions. He saw an empire in the making. Tribe after tribe fell to his legions. The Helvetii, the Belgae, the Nervii. His commentaries on the Gallic War not only chronicled his victories, but shaped his legend in real time. Rome read of his genius, while the fields of Gaul soaked in blood. At Alesia, he faced his greatest challenge. Vercingetorix, a charismatic chieftain who had united the tribes. Outnumbered and surrounded, Caesar built 2 massive walls, one to siege the city, one to protect from reinforcements. Trapped between Roman ingenuity and Roman steel, the Gauls were crushed. Vercingetorix surrendered, casting his weapons at Caesar's feet. It was a moment of theatre and finality. By 50 BCE, Caesar had become the most powerful man in the Roman world. He had gained unimaginable wealth, the loyalty of battle-hardened legions, and a mythic stature. But in Rome, the Senate trembled. Men like Cato, Cicero, and especially Pompey the Great, once Caesar's ally, now rival, feared that the Republic was breathing its last. When the Senate, backed by Pompey, ordered Caesar to disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen, Caesar faced a choice: humiliation or civil war. He chose war. It was a quiet winter night in 49 BCE when Caesar stood on the banks of the Rubicon River, the boundary beyond which a Roman general could not legally bring his troops. He paused. Then, with the words, "Alea iacta est," the die is cast, he crossed. It was an act of treason. It was an act of revolution. It was the end of the Republic. Rome descended into civil war. Pompey fled to Greece. The Senate crumbled. Caesar swept through Italy, Spain, and finally confronted Pompey at Pharsalus in 48 BCE. Though outnumbered, Caesar's discipline and tactical brilliance triumphed. Pompey fled again, this time to Egypt, where he was murdered by Pharaoh Ptolemy XIII, seeking Caesar's favor. But instead of gratitude, Caesar was repulsed. When presented with Pompey's severed head, he wept. Even in war, he respected greatness. In Egypt, he met Cleopatra, the exiled queen. Their affair was passionate, scandalous, and political. Together, they defeated Ptolemy and restored Cleopatra to the throne. A son was born, Caesarion. Back in Rome, Caesar was now dictator, not just in name, in spirit. He passed reforms, pardoned enemies, stabilized the grain supply, and expanded citizenship. To many, he was a savior. To others, a tyrant in a purple cloak. He refused a crown when offered, but he accepted dictatorship for life. And so the whispers began. Rome had no shortage of knives. It only needed the right moment to unsheathe them. The conspirators called themselves liberators. Among them, Cassius, bitter and jealous. Decimus, once trusted, and most painfully, Marcus Junius Brutus, the man Caesar treated like a son. Their goal was simple, to kill the tyrant and save the Republic. But was the Republic even alive? Caesar had enemies, yes, but he also had the love of the people. The Senate feared that love more than any legion. On March 15th, 44 BCE, the Ides of March, they chose betrayal over submission. Caesar had been warned. A soothsayer had told him, "Beware the Ides of March." His wife, Calpurnia, had dreams of blood and omens. Even as he walked to the theatre of Pompey, where the Senate met that day, messages were pressed into his hand, warnings never read. Inside the hall, the conspirators surrounded him. They struck swiftly, first Casca, then the others. Caesar fought back until he saw Brutus. "Et tu, Brute?" "You too, Brutus?" The words were not of anger, they were of heartbreak. He stopped resisting. He drew his toga over his face, and then he fell. 23 stab wounds, none of them fatal on their own. The greatest man in Rome died not on the battlefield, but on the cold marble floor of a Senate hall, beneath the statue of Pompey. A final, bitter irony. The assassins had expected gratitude. They believed the Republic would rise and cheer its saviors. Instead, Rome fell into chaos. The people mourned Caesar. They loved him. The games, the grain, the victories. Mark Antony, Caesar's closest ally, delivered a funeral oration that set the city ablaze. Holding Caesar's bloodied cloak before the mob, he unleashed fury upon the conspirators. Civil war followed. Brutus and Cassius fled east, raising armies. But Caesar's shadow would not fade. Octavian, Caesar's adopted son and heir, barely 19, rose with chilling resolve. He joined forces with Antony and Lepidus to form the Second Triumvirate. Together, they hunted the assassins. At Philippi in 42 BCE, Brutus and Cassius were defeated. Both committed suicide, dying with the Republic they tried to save. But the Republic was already dead. Caesar's death had not preserved the Republic. It had buried it. From the ashes rose something new, an empire. Octavian became Augustus, Rome's first emperor. The Senate remained, but it was a puppet theatre. The people who once cheered liberty now cheered conquests. Caesar was declared a god. Temples were built. His image placed on coins. He became Divus Julius, the divine. But beneath the marble and the myths, one truth endured. Rome had betrayed its greatest son. He was not perfect. He was ambitious, prideful, a master of propaganda. But he was also generous, brilliant, and visionary. He brought order to chaos, turned enemies into allies, and saw a Rome grander than any before him. His betrayal was not just the murder of a man, it was the shattering of a dream, that one could rule with both strength and mercy, that greatness could coexist with reform. And so, the Ides of March became not a warning, but a wound, a moment when hope was bled from a republic too fractured to heal. Julius Caesar died not because he was feared, he died because he was loved.